Live, love Africa. What's your excuse for not coming? Please subscribe.
Hello, I'm Dynasty Mir.
Greetings, everyone. It is Dynasty Mir, Search for Uhuru. Thank you so much for joining. Before we get started, make sure you like, share, and subscribe to the content. Again, please like, share, and subscribe to the content. Also, go to dynastymir.com. Go to dynastymir.com. Buy some merchandise. This is the Africa is the Future t-shirt. And buy some books. I write books, so please support and buy a couple. Also, make sure you subscribe to our email list while you're there. Today's topic, I wanted to do a response to my brother from Sacramento, California, Mr. Oshay Duke Jackson. And he was speaking on how Keisha Lance Bottoms, T.I., Killer Mike ruined Atlanta. And I live in Atlanta. You know, I reside here. So I want to speak on that. And what's going on with Atlanta has been somewhat going on since I left in around 2007, 2008. But I want to share this story with you guys. So, you know, I listen to Jason Black. If you guys don't know Jason Black, the Black Authority, subscribe to his channel. He has good content. And he brought up how Roland Martin came to Atlanta, and this was a few years back, and he was bragging about the skyline of Atlanta. You know, the beautiful buildings in Atlanta and the new construction of them. And if you have not been to Atlanta before, if you're heading from Hartsfield-Jackson Airport coming up 7585 North, you know, once you get to the old Turner Field, which is, Georgia State's new football stadium, you can see the Atlanta skyline. And Roland Martin was bragging about how, you know, look at these beautiful buildings, these black-owned buildings, you know, this black-owned skyline. But Jason Black said something, and he was correct. He said, Roland Martin, when you look at Atlanta skyline, how many of those buildings, those structures, those skyscrapers, how many of them are black-owned? Not one. I could be wrong, but not one. See, guys, what you have to understand about Atlanta is white corporate-owned, black managed. Again, it's white corporate-owned, black managed. And that's something that people are trying to sweep under the rug. You know, a few weeks back when, you know, we had the riots, well, not riots, but uprising riots, whatever you want to call it, here in Atlanta, in response to the George Floyd murder. Killer Mike, or I think T.I., I believe Killer Mike said Atlanta is Wakanda. Well, he's right. Atlanta is Wakanda. Now, what's Wakanda? What is Wakanda? Wakanda is a fictional place written by two white men, one of them being Stan Lee, over at Marvel Comics. So yes, Atlanta is Wakanda. Atlanta is written by white corporations, and we can say Arthur Blank and Ted Turner are Stan Lee. They're both Stan Lee. And so people, a lot of people don't want to address that. Gentrification here in Atlanta is serious. There was an article that was just released on Atlanta saying that the yearly average income for black families is like at $29,000 a year. Meanwhile, for white families, it was like $88,000. How can he brag and say this place is Wakanda when these are the figures? I know we've been dealing a lot with police brutality. There was another brother that was killed, a couple weeks ago over here off of Metropolitan by the Wendy's. I know I'm going to offend a lot of people when I say this, but police brutality is not the issue. The issue is economics. Now, I know the deflection has been on police brutality. But the reality is, these black cities, or Wakandas, and specifically Atlanta, black people can't even afford to live in them at this present moment. And ever since, I mean, this has been going on since 2007, 2008, when gentrification started to take place heavily, rapidly here in Atlanta. These mayors will come in and talk about affordable housing, affordable housing, affordable housing, affordable housing. Where's the affordable housing at? See, this is what's going on in Atlanta. You know, at one time, Atlanta was, listen, if you wanted a house that took up a whole city block, come to Atlanta. It is affordable. Come to Atlanta. It's a black mecca. But a lot of that has changed. Atlanta is not the Atlanta of old. I remember when I moved to Atlanta back in 2006 from the University of Georgia. Well, I moved to Smyrna. Then I came to Atlanta in 2007. Smyrna is a suburb of Atlanta. It's like 15, 20 minutes away. Literally, you can get a 2-bedroom, 1-bath apartment in Atlanta for like $700. You could barely get a 2-bedroom, 1-bath apartment in Riverdale these days for $700. And then, you know, Oshay brought up Keisha Lance Bottoms. Keisha Lance Bottoms had the audacity, maybe, I think it was when she first came in office, of making Atlanta a sanctuary city. Do you know how that would have affected black people if you made Atlanta a sanctuary city? See, the thing you have to understand about these black politicians, they are so anti-Donald Trump to the point where now they don't even think logically. What you guys have to understand, being anti-Donald Trump does not necessarily mean that you're in the best interest of black people. Threatening to turn Atlanta into a sanctuary city would have been the nail in the coffin for black people in Atlanta. You guys know that. I live in LA. I mean, black people are almost extinct in LA now. Again, threatening to turn Atlanta into a sanctuary city just because you're so mad at Donald Trump would have been the nail in the coffin for Atlanta, for black people in Atlanta. I mean, it's already pretty much a wrap. Don't be surprised, guys, when the election comes up in about 2 or 3 years for the mayor of Atlanta that we're going to have a white mayor. It's going to happen. It is going to happen. So Killer Mike is right. Atlanta is Wakanda. The script is written by white men, just like Wakanda. And Atlanta is black managed. See, Atlanta is just an interesting place. I mean, again, I live in Atlanta. It's cool. I mean, this is another thing. A lot of, I would say, people who were born and raised in Atlanta, they didn't value Atlanta anyway. They got the hell out. They moved to the suburbs. When they had the opportunity, they left Atlanta. A lot of them don't live in Atlanta. I mean, in 2014, when I bought my house in Atlanta, I bought my house in an area called the West End. Literally, I have friends telling me, Dinus, if you move to the West End, I'm not going to come visit you. Do not buy over there. Buying my home in the West End was probably the best financial decision I've ever made in my life. So what you have to understand too is just a lot of these AT aliens, they didn't value Atlanta anyway. They got the hell out. T.I. doesn't live in Atlanta. T.I. stays Stockbridge or Stockbridge or Lovejoy or some one of those suburbs. Schools in Atlanta are terrible. They're awful. Atlanta's being gentrified. There's no, I mean, affordable housing is non-existent. But see, what they want to do, see, and this is going on in a lot of black cities. And this has been an ongoing issue, but they want to blame Donald Trump. What does Donald Trump have to do with any of this? This has been a consistent problem. Like I said, Atlanta is white owned and black managed. And we all know the consequences when you don't have ownership. Now, there are a lot of black people in Atlanta that have sense. Trust me. There are black people in Atlanta that are doing big things. Atlanta's still a good place to live. But you're right, Atlanta is Wakanda. Meaning that it's a script about black folks written by white corporations. That's just the reality of it. And Atlanta is not the same, guys. Atlanta is not the Atlanta of, 2008, 2000. Everybody wanted to move to Atlanta. Everybody's like, look, I'm going to move to Atlanta and I'm going to live the black American dream. Those days are over. You're about 5 years too late. You should have been here like 2014, 2015 when you could still buy affordable property in Atlanta. But those days are a wrap. So how can Atlanta, well, Atlanta is Wakanda, but when people think Wakanda, they think just the image that they see on TV, on the movie screen. But Atlanta is Wakanda, but it's not Wakanda. And so I agree with a lot with Brother Oshay Duke Jackson, my brother from Sacramento, California. I agree with a lot of what he said because he's right. And to be honest with you, I'm from California. The majority of my neighbors, black neighbors here in my neighborhood, are not from Atlanta. So who's really saving Atlanta? People who aren't from Atlanta are the ones that are keeping Atlanta afloat. So we have to take that into consideration. Again, people who are not from Atlanta are the ones who are keeping, the black people who are not from Atlanta are the people who are keeping this image of Wakanda alive. Again, the black people who are not from Atlanta, who were born and raised in other cities and other states, well, really other states, who moved to Atlanta, are the ones who are keeping this image of Wakanda alive. If it wasn't for us, man, Atlanta, I don't know what Atlanta would be. So I just wanted to do this response real quick. Guys, leave your comments in the comment section. Let me know what you think. If you live in Atlanta and you disagree with me, put it in the comment section. But we have to stop blaming Donald Trump for issues going on in these majority black cities that were going on and ongoing before Donald Trump even came into office. Everybody's pointing the finger at Donald Trump. And what black people have to understand is that when politicians are anti-Trump, that does not mean pro-black necessarily. That means pro-white liberal agenda. So when you have a black politician coming onto TV threatening to turn Atlanta into a sanctuary city, that is not a win for black people. If you don't believe me, ask black people how sanctuary city status are working, how's that working in places like Los Angeles, California. So again, that's what we have to understand, guys. Anti-Trump does not mean pro-black. Anti-Trump does not mean that this is going to be in the best interest of black people. It's not. Again, it's in the best interest of white liberals. So guys, thank you so much for joining. Like, share, and subscribe. Go to DynastyMir.com. Until next time, family, Dynasty Mir, search for Huru. Peace.